Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a form of government where decisions weren't just, counting heads, but maybe weighing wisdom, where your knowledge, your actual helpful actions could tangibly increase your voice. But that's the bold vision in the source document we're diving into today. It's got this provocative title, A Currency of Meaning and Human Flourishing.
Right. And it proposes this model, epistemocracy, which, literally means rule by the knowledgeable.
Okay.
But it's really crucial right up front. The document insists this isn't about restricting who gets to participate. Not at all.
Ah, okay.
The aim is more about keeping that broad democratic inclusion we value, but fundamentally shifting how collective decisions get made, prioritizing competence, evidence, and, what they call human flourishing.
So it's not some kind of technocratic elite just taking over.
No, that's not the pitch.
It's more about reshaping the whole system.
Yeah.
So that being informed, contributing positively actually matters in how society is run.
That's exactly it. And it's built on several interconnected pieces. There's this Universal Value Index, the UVI, to try and measure shared well-being.
Okay.
Then there's this unique social merit currency called karma, a civic platform that's designed to be genuinely engaging, almost like a game, and AI to help manage the complexity.
Wow, okay. That sounds like a really fascinating blend. Philosophy, social science, and some pretty cutting-edge tech all mixed together. So our something today is basically to peel back the layers of this document, really understand this epistemocracy model, and see how it tries to align decision-making power with, demonstrated merit and virtue.
Let's do it. And maybe the best place to start is the fundamental problem it's trying to solve, the thing that makes this kind of, frankly, radical thinking seem necessary to the authors.
You mean the alarming epistemic gap,
Yes.
as the source calls it?
Exactly, the knowledge gap.
Right. The source argues that, modern democracy kind of assumes a reasonably informed public. But what does the research cited in the document actually say about that assumption? Is it holding up?
Well, not so much, according to the studies they cite. It points to research suggesting the average citizen's understanding across many domains that are pretty critical for governance. It's surprisingly low.
How low?
The document specifically benchmarks it around a middle school level. Think maybe 7th or 8th grade comprehension on average.
Wait, really? A 7th or 8th grade understanding? Trying to grapple with things like climate change, global economics, complex healthcare policy. That feels, challenging is putting it mildly.
It does.
What specific areas does the document highlight? Where are these gaps most obvious?
Yeah, it gives a breakdown, paints a pretty stark picture, actually. For critical thinking, they estimate around 8th or 9th grade level, meaning, people might struggle to spot logical fallacies, making them more susceptible to misinformation.
Okay.
Reading comprehension for complex text, like actually reading a policy proposal, also hovering around 8th grade level.
And numeracy. Math literacy feels, essential for understanding budgets or economic data, surely.
Absolutely. And numeracy is also pegged around that 8th grade level, which leads to difficulties, interpreting data correctly, assessing risk properly, civics knowledge, just understanding the basic structure of government listed at 7th, 8th grade. And they include that striking statistic.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, only about 26% of citizens, in the U.S. context anyway, can apparently name all 3 branches of government.
That one always gets me. Okay, what about other key areas? Economics, global issues.
Economics is cited even lower, around 6th, 7th grade level, with, the document says, widespread misconceptions about things like national debt or what causes inflation.
Wow.
International relations, similarly low, around 6th grade, described as a kind of naive understanding. And then you've got data and graph literacy, history, basic algebra, finance skills, all clustering around that 7th, 8th grade mark.
So the source's conclusion is pretty blunt then. An electorate with sort of that level of understanding on such crucial, complex topics is, simply ill-equipped for 21st century governance.
Precisely. Leading, the document argues, to policies driven more by, let's say, uninformed opinion, maybe tribal loyalty, or just gut feelings rather than solid evidence or a deep understanding of shared values.
But, and this is the key part you mentioned earlier, the epistemocracy model isn't about just throwing out democracy.
No, not at all. Its core premise is about bridging this gap. Not by excluding people, which is the critical distinction, but by elevating informed participation, creating real incentives and structures for everyone to learn more, contribute meaningfully, understand better.
So the idea is to make learning and, doing good deeds genuinely rewarding within the civic space itself.
That's the core idea. It's designed to invite citizens to kind of level up their knowledge and their positive impact, and crucially have that effort tangibly rewarded with, increased influence in the system.
Making civic virtue and competence actually pay off in a new kind of social currency almost.
Exactly. That's the goal.
Okay, so the knowledge gap is the problem. How does this proposed system actually work to fix it? Let's get into the nuts and bolts of the solution presented in the document.
Right. So the foundational piece is this universal value index, the UVI. You can think of it as the system's compass.
The compass.
Yeah, a holistic metric designed to track actual societal well-being, societal progress, moving beyond just, GDP.
Right. The source calls it a compass for human flourishing. What does this index actually try to measure then?
Well, it aims to quantify what genuinely matters to people and communities across a really wide spectrum of human experience. The document gives examples of what it calls balanced value domains.
Like what?
Things like interpersonal value, so trust, social connection, cognitive value, knowledge, education, existential value, meaning mental well-being, bodily security, health, safety, aesthetic and cultural value, art, creativity, and ecological value, sustainability, environment.
And it combines hard data like health stats or pollution levels with softer data, like surveys on life satisfaction.
Yes, exactly. Using both objective and subjective indicators to create a composite score overall, but also sub-indices for each of those domains.
So the UVI acts as the system's North Star, providing this shared reference point.
That's the idea. Policy debate then shifts. Instead of arguing endlessly about what the goal is like, should we improve health, you agree on the goal because it's in the UVI, and the debate becomes how best to achieve it, using evidence measured against those UVI metrics.
That's fascinating. It tries to create a common ground for what progress even looks like, even for people with very different political views.
That seems to be the intent. The document really stresses its pluralistic design. It aims to capture diverse values, things that might appeal across the political spectrum, by focusing on these fundamental human needs and aspirations.
Okay, so the UVI sets the goals. How do individuals actually contribute to, moving the needle on these values?
And earn influence in the process.
Yeah, that's where this karma thing comes in, right?
Precisely. Karma is the system's social merit currency. It's designed to quantify and reward your contributions to improving those UVI values. If UVI is the destination, karma is how your positive actions are measured as progress toward it.
Okay, but just to be absolutely crystal clear here, this isn't money. We're not talking about buying influence.
Absolutely not. This is a core principle, really emphasized in the source. Karma cannot be bought, sold, or traded. It has no price tag. You cannot use your financial wealth to get karma or the influence it represents.
Right.
It must be earned. Through verifiable positive action, through learning, through service. It's described as a non-fungible reputation score. Think of it like unique, non-transferable civic points, cryptographically bound to your identity.
Non-transferable. Okay.
Yes.
So it functions more like a trust metric. Ensuring influence is actually linked to your contributions and skills, not just your bank balance. A system of social credit for epistemic virtue, as they put it.
Yes, exactly. Doing good things, doing knowledgeable things in ways that can actually be verified earns you this reputation, this voice within the system. And the source details multiple ways, multiple pathways to earn this karma.
Okay, like one key way seems to be through knowledge achievements.
Right. Learning stuff and proving you know it. The platform would offer, structured learning, quizzes, courses, maybe certifications on relevant topics, civics, climate science, economics, whatever.
And passing those earns you karma.
Yeah, earns you karma, and maybe specific badges, like you could get a certified climate literate badge, perhaps. The more verifiable knowledge you gain and demonstrate, the more reputation you build.
Okay, that directly tackles that knowledge gap we were talking about earlier. Makes sense. What about actions, like stuff you do in the real world?
Value-aligned actions, so verified real-world contributions that actually advance those UVI domains we talked about.
Gotcha.
Could be anything from volunteering time, mentoring someone, participating in a community cleanup, contributing to public art, joining a neighborhood watch. The key is that these actions are somehow tied to evidence-backed improvements measured against the UVI metrics.
So it's not just doing the action, it's the impact.
Ideally, yes. The source gives this example. Imagine someone sets up an urban garden. If that garden demonstrably improved local ecological value or maybe community well-being according to UVI metrics, they'd earn karma, potentially scaled to that measured impact.
Connecting action directly to measured outcomes. Interesting. And policy innovation. How does that work?
Basically, proposing well-researched solutions or ideas on the civic platform. If your proposal gets, say, positively evaluated by domain experts, or gains significant community endorsement, or even better, gets implemented and demonstrably shows positive UVI impact, you earn karma for that.
So it turns generating good, evidence-based ideas into a form of rewarded civic contribution.
Yeah, like a collaborative meritocracy of ideas.
Okay, this next one. This is where it gets really interesting for me. The idea of rewarding foresight, good judgment.
Accurate predictions. Yeah, this is quite innovative. The system could incorporate things like prediction markets or forecasting challenges focused on future societal outcomes, things related to the UVI.
So you bet on what you think will happen.
You stake your earned karma. Essentially, you're betting your reputation on your predictions. Users who are consistently correct gain karma from those whose predictions turned out wrong. It's a mechanism designed to transfer influence over time to those who demonstrate the most prescience, the best judgment based on evidence. And it kind of subtly gamifies the whole pursuit of truth.
And there's even a way for people just to say thank you to each other within the system.
Peer appreciation. Yeah, the ability to voluntarily gift small amounts, and they stress small amounts of your earned karma to another user as a simple thank you. Maybe for a really helpful comment they made, a valuable insight, some assistance they provided. It's meant to foster a positive feedback loop, a culture of gratitude, but with strict limits, apparently, to prevent abuse or people just trying to transfer karma illicitly. It has to be about genuine appreciation.
Okay, so all these different ways of earning karma, they're all calibrated to incentivize behavior that lines up with the UVI, encouraging people to learn, to help out, to innovate, think critically, moving away from just narrow self-interest towards shared values.
That seems to be the goal, rewarding the quantification and improvement of what is meaningful, as the source puts it.
And this accumulated karma isn't just a single number, right? It's visualized somehow.
Exactly. It's visualized in something the source calls the karma mosaic.
Karma mosaic. It sounds like a piece of digital art representing your civic life or something.
That's a pretty good way to think about it, yeah. It's presented as this rich, metadata-driven reputation profile, a multidimensional view showing exactly where your karma comes from. The document describes it as a colorful personal dashboard of civic virtues and competencies.
So you could see, like, at a glance, if someone's really strong on environmental issues or maybe more well-rounded across different areas.
Exactly. Bigger tiles in this mosaic would represent higher karma in specific UVI domains. It shows your balance or maybe your specialization. And it also includes things like skill and role tags, detailing how you earned karma in a domain. Were you acting as a science communicator, a volunteer firefighter, a community organizer, maybe that urban gardener we talked about? This helps surface specific kinds of expertise, not just a general score.
And verification levels add a layer of trust, I assume.
Crucially, yeah. It distinguishes contributions that are verified through, say, official exams or measured real-world impact, maybe shown with a gold border on the tile, from those verified more by community endorsement, like peer reviews, maybe a silver outline, and then maybe unverified claims or contributions would have a different look, like a gray pattern.
And verifiable karma would naturally carry more weight for influence.
That's the idea. And this whole mosaic is meant to be dynamic, updating in real time, and generally public, like your civic resume.
So it's visible when you're participating.
Yes, visible during civic engagement. So others can assess the context of your arguments. If someone's making a really strong point about economic policy, seeing a prominent high verification economics karma tile on their mosaic adds credibility compared to someone, with zero demonstrated knowledge in that area.
Okay, I can see how that transparency could foster accountability and link influence directly to visible merit. Makes it harder to just bluff your way through or fall prey to that Dunning-Kruger effect, maybe?
Right. It's presented as a merit portfolio, rewarding informed pro-social participation over just popularity or, crucially, wealth.
Which brings us to the big question everyone's probably asking. Okay. How do you actually use this karma? If it's not money, what power does it actually grant you?
Right. What does spending karma look like in this system?
Yeah.
Well, it's not spending in a financial sense at all. It translates into influence and capability within the governance system itself, directly tied to your demonstrated expertise and contributions. The primary use case proposed is weighted voting power.
Ah, okay. So this isn't strictly one person, one vote then?
No, not strictly. When voting on proposals or decisions, the idea is your vote is weighted, partly by your total karma score perhaps, but especially by your karma in the specific domains relevant to the issue at hand.
So if you're voting on environmental regulation,
Your ecological karma, maybe your scientific literacy karma, adds a bit more weight to your vote. The document suggests this weighting would be transparent, rule-based. Maybe a formula adding a, say, modest percentage bonus based on relevant verified karma.
so the core idea is that people who've actually demonstrated knowledge, who've contributed positively in a certain area, have a slightly stronger voice on issues related to that area.
Precisely. It gently tilts influence towards informed input without disenfranchising anyone. Everyone still gets to vote. But demonstrated expertise gives your vote a bit more heft.
But there have to be limits, right?
Oh, absolutely. The source is very clear there need to be safeguards. Limits, caps on the maximum weight any single individual could have. Diminishing returns, probably, on accumulating extreme amounts of karma in one area to prevent dominance by a small, hyper-specialized minority. It's framed as a careful balancing act between democratic equality and valuing expertise.
And it adds a little cost, too, maybe, using your social capital.
Potentially. It adds a small cost. You're spending some of your hard-earned social capital, your reputation score, when you weigh in, which might subtly encourage you to focus your voting influence on the issues you understand best.
Interesting. What else can karma unlock besides weighted voting?
Expertise unlocks. So having high domain-specific karma could grant you certain capabilities within the system. Things like being able to initiate formal proposals yourself, maybe getting your input surfaced more prominently in discussions, taking on mentorship roles for newcomers, or even earning seats in specialized deliberative councils or committees.
A bit like how reputation on a site like Stack Overflow grants moderation privileges.
Exactly that kind of idea. Meritocratic roles based on domain expertise and potentially roles you'd need to maintain through continued engagement, not just rest on your laurels.
Okay, and staking karma on proposals. That sounds like really putting your reputation on the line for an idea you believe in.
It is. You can stake some of your earned karma to either endorse or challenge a proposed policy or project, based on your prediction of its likely impact on the UVI.
And what happens then?
Hell, if the actual outcome, once measured, aligns with your prediction, you gain karma maybe from those who staked against it. If the outcome goes against your prediction, you lose the karma you staked. It's a built-in accountability mechanism. It discourages people from just advocating for ideas recklessly because your actual reputation is on the line. You have skin in the game, so to speak.
Collective projects and resource allocation. How does karma play into that?
Communities could pool their karma together to signal strong support for specific projects. Maybe funding an independent study on a local issue, organizing a large volunteer initiative, or backing a particular proposal submitted to local government.
So a big pool of karma signals grassroots support.
Exactly. A large pool acts as this powerful signal of grassroots credibility and informed support. It could potentially influence policymakers, maybe help unlock matching funds or resources. It's like crowdsourcing trust and credibility for public good initiatives.
And the incentive marketplace. That sounds intriguing.
Yeah, this is where organizations, maybe even local governments, could offer karma bounties for achieving specific, verifiable, UVI-aligned goals. Like, earn 50 karma points for every verified tree planted, or complete this community health worker training and earn 20 karma. They're essentially buying public goods and services, but using the social credit, karma, instead of money.
And since karma can't be bought with money.
Exactly. It avoids scenarios where wealthy individuals or corporations could just purchase influence or buy the public goods outcomes they want. Of course, strong anti-gaming measures, robust verification, transparency, those would be absolutely crucial here.
Okay, so in essence, karma empowers individuals based on their actual knowledge, their skills, their service, creating this new kind of economy based on esteem and ideas, not cash. And tying influence to this non-financial currency fundamentally realigns the incentive, right? Improving your understanding, actively helping your community. That tangibly increases your voice and standing in this system.
That's the core vision. But how do you actually get people involved? You know, people who might be busy, maybe disillusioned with civic life already. How do you get them to engage with a system like this?
Right. The source addresses this head-on with the concept of gamified civic engagement, making participation rewarding, maybe even fun and accessible.
Exactly. The platform is envisioned not as some, boring government website, but something much more interactive. blending aspects of a good civic forum with elements you might find in educational games or even social platforms.
Like these knowledge quests you mentioned.
Yes, things like bite-sized learning modules, quizzes on critical topics, almost like Duolingo, but for civics or economics or environmental science. You earn karma, you earn badges, you literally level up your civic IQ with things like game-like progression bars, immediate rewards for learning.
And challenges and leaderboards add a competitive element, but hopefully a civic-minded one.
Precisely. Prediction challenges, knowledge competitions. High performers could be recognized publicly, maybe a top forecaster list or an honor roll for community health contributors. It's framed as friendly competition, designed to motivate continuous learning and contribution in a public, honorable way, not like an arcade.
And achievement badges and levels track your overall progress.
Yeah, earning badges like Community Builder or Policy Whiz or Data Detective, these would appear on your karma mosaic, adding a bit of color, signaling specific skills or milestones, and providing that sense of progression and accomplishment. Maybe little celebratory messages when you hit a milestone.
Community collaboration sounds important, too, for building social connections within this.
Definitely. Things like group quests, team problem-solving challenges focused on local UVI goals, maybe community-wide missions. Earning rewards together could help build social cohesion and encourage people to work towards common goals, not just individual ones.
And what about the overall narrative and feedback? How does that work?
Framing participation as this collective journey, to improve society together. Maybe using AI assistants as guides, offering personalized quests based on your interests or local UVI data. And crucially, providing continuous feedback, showing the tangible impact of your input, like how your knowledge scores are trending up, how your staked predictions actually turned out, how your contribution, maybe pooled with others, influenced a project outcome or a policy decision. It's intrinsically rewarding, hopefully, to see your efforts actually make a difference.
And the source emphasizes these gamification elements are meant to be light and opt-in, maintaining the seriousness of governance while making it more engaging.
Right, not trivializing it. A clean, modern interface is envisioned maybe like a mix of LinkedIn for your civic identity, a learning app like Duolingo or Khan Academy for the knowledge part, and some game reward systems for motivation. The ultimate goal is making participation feel like a valuable, maybe even appealing part of daily life, the collective game of leveling up our society together.
Okay, but with potentially millions of people interacting, complex debates.
Yeah.
Managing all that information and interaction sounds like a massive challenge.
That's where the AI comes in, I guess.
That's the proposal. AI, facilitation, and moderation.
But crucially, the AI isn't making the decisions itself. No, absolutely not. That's critical. The AI is envisioned as an unbiased facilitator, a tireless moderator, a helpful coach. Its role is to augment human judgment, cut through the noise, maintain high standards of discourse and reason, but not to rule. It's a tool, a powerful tool, but a tool in the hands of the knowledgeable citizens.
So how would it help mediate debates, for example?
Through something they call dialectical coaching. So in forums or virtual town halls or discussions about proposals, the AI could analyze the arguments in real time.
And do what?
It might prompt users for clarification, ask them to define their terms precisely, maybe suggest exploring a counter-argument using a steelman approach, presenting the best possible version of the opposing view. It could highlight areas of agreement and disagreement automatically, even suggest potential compromises based on the discussion threads, essentially acting as a neutral, knowledgeable, and tireless moderator guiding productive conversation.
And it helps with checking facts and logical arguments as well.
Yes, providing crucial support for maintaining those epistemic standards we talked about. It includes fact-checking, automatically cross-referencing factual claims against verified sources, maybe offering gentle private corrections or publicly adding a little citation-needed tag.
Okay.
It could analyze arguments for logical consistency, identifying potential fallacies again, maybe through private alerts or subtle public flags. It might even tag clear, well-supported arguments with something like a well-reasoned marker, just helping signal quality without actually endorsing the argument's conclusion itself.
I saw it also helps synthesize information, especially in long, complicated discussions.
Summarization, yeah. AI could generate concise, unbiased summaries of lengthy debates or complex proposal comment sections, highlighting key points, evidence presented, different perspectives. This helps users quickly get up to speed and ensures valuable information or maybe minority viewpoints don't just get lost in the sheer volume.
How does the AI handle the whole karma-weighted voting thing? That sounds tricky.
Expertise matching and karma-weighted voting calculation. The AI's algorithms would transparently calculate each user's vote weight. Based on their karma mosaic, the relevance of their domain, karma to the specific issue, all according to those predefined public rules,
Right.
it would handle blending weights for issues that cut across multiple domains. And it would enforce all the safeguards, the influence caps, the diminishing returns we mentioned, acting as the impartial referee, applying the rules of the system fairly.
And it's also designed to try and mitigate human biases, emotional hijacking of discussions.
Yes, through bias detection and emotional moderation features. It could include tone policing, monitoring the general sentiment, maybe prompting users towards civility, flagging or throttling clearly abusive language, helping and highlighting tribalism, gently pointing out when arguments seem based purely on group allegiance rather than the evidence presented, encouraging reframing emotional appeals, acknowledging personal stories or emotional inputs compassionately, but prompting users to also consider the broader evidence, the systemic context, marrying empathy with evidence.
And even helping fight echo chambers.
Exactly. If it notices a user is only consuming information or interacting with others who echo their viewpoint, the AI could gently nudge them. Suggest exploring well-reasoned counterpoints just to help combat confirmation bias. The whole goal here is for the AI to be this wise assistant, keeping discussions healthy, evidence-based, respectful, upholding high epistemic standards at scale so the actual signal doesn't get drowned out by all the noise.
Okay, so we've got the UVI setting the goals, the karma system providing incentives, and the profile, how that karma translates into influence, the gamification to get people involved, and the AI trying to keep it all rational and civil. It's quite a system. How could something this complex actually be built? And maybe more importantly, how could it ever get adopted?
Right, the practicalities. The document does dive into the implementation infrastructure needed, and it suggests leveraging a lot of modern decentralized technologies.
Like blockchain.
Yeah.
For the record keeping.
Yes. Using a tamper-proof public ledger to record things like karma transactions, votes, key system events. The idea is that provides transparency and prevents any single entity from manipulating the core data.
Okay, and smart contracts.
To automate the system's rules. Issuing karma based on verifiable actions, enforcing the criteria for earning it, distributing staked karma automatically based on prediction outcomes. Decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, are also mentioned.
For what?
Potentially managing different aspects of the system itself. Maybe one DAO oversees the UVI metrics and how they're updated. Another manages the rules around karma rewards, providing a kind of distributed governance for the system.
And decentralized digital identity sounds absolutely key here. Preventing fake accounts, but protecting privacy.
Crucial. A secure, verifiable digital identity is needed to stop people gaming the system with multiple accounts. But, importantly, the document stresses it should be self-sovereign, meaning you control your identity and your data, not some central authority.
And the karma itself. How is that represented technologically?
The suggestion is using non-transferable reputation tokens, like soul-bound tokens, maybe, from the Web3 space. These are cryptographically bound to your digital identity. They cannot be transferred or traded. They can only be earned.
Which really reinforces that principle you can't buy or transfer your influence. And the source mentioned potential decay for these tokens.
Yes, that's floated as an idea. Karma might slowly decay over time, perhaps, or require ongoing activity to maintain its full value. This prevents individuals from just resting on achievements from years ago and encourages continued engagement and learning. It emphasizes ongoing contribution.
Okay, but with all this personal data, civic activity, security, and privacy are obviously huge concerns.
Huge. The document stresses using advanced cryptography. Things like zero-knowledge proofs, which could allow you to prove something like having high domain karma without actually revealing the underlying sensitive data that proves it.
Right.
Plus encryption for stored data, user control over what parts of their karma mosaic are public versus private, and that self-sovereign identity architecture are all presented as key privacy safeguards.
And making this work for potentially millions, even billions of users. Scalability.
Yeah, that's a big tech challenge. Leveraging things like layer 2 scaling solutions, maybe doing heavy AI computation off-chain while only anchoring key verifiable events onto the main blockchain. A kind of hybrid approach, mixing decentralized security with more traditional scalable tech where needed.
Finally, the user interface and accessibility. All this cool tech means nothing if regular people can't use it easily.
Absolutely critical. The document emphasizes the need for a really easy-to-use app interface, something that hides all that underlying tech complexity. Multilanguage support, robust accessibility standards for people with various disabilities, and actively addressing the digital divide are all mentioned as essential.
How do you address the digital divide with something this tech-heavy?
Designing it to work on lower-end devices, function reasonably well even with limited internet access, and crucially, partnering with community organizations, libraries, community centers to provide access points, maybe basic training.
Okay, so the infrastructure is envisioned as secure, fair, user-friendly, leveraging decentralized text benefits while really focusing on broad accessibility. That covers how it might be built. How does it actually get adopted? How does it become influential in the real world?
Right. The document outlines potential pathways to adoption, suggesting it would likely start small and grow organically.
Like pilot communities testing it out first.
Exactly. Starting in specific niches, maybe one forward-thinking city, a university campus, perhaps a large online community. To test the system in the real world, refine it based on feedback, and hopefully demonstrate its value on a smaller scale. These pilots would generate crucial case studies and data.
Then maybe a grassroots movement builds interest among people who are maybe looking for alternatives to the current system.
Possibly. And crucially, the idea of integration with existing platforms is mentioned. The system might not require everyone to join a whole new platform from day one. Maybe it could plug into widely used social media platforms, existing civic engagement apps, perhaps even metaverse environments eventually, reaching users where they already are.
The narrative and public image seem absolutely vital here to avoid it being immediately dismissed as some kind of dystopian social credit system.
Totally. Framing it very carefully. As voluntary, community-driven merit, not top-down government surveillance. Emphasizing user control, positive incentives, privacy protections, seeking endorsements from diverse, respected figures, and probably most importantly, highlighting inspiring success stories. You know, that regular citizen whose informed input actually led to a tangible community improvement because of the system.
And addressing skepticism head-on seems unavoidable.
Absolutely necessary. Total transparency in the rules, the algorithms, the code. Actively involving civil liberties groups from the very beginning. Holding open Q&A sessions. Establishing robust, independent oversight. And constantly stressing the voluntary opt-in nature. But ultimately, the document suggests the best advertisement will be tangible community improvements and positive results that people can see for themselves.
That could build momentum, moving it from niche to norm over time.
That's the hope. As more communities adopt it, network effects could kick in. Karma might even become portable across different participating communities. Media reports on successful implementations would increase awareness and influence. The document even sketches out a kind of speculative evolutionary roadmap.
Stages of growth?
Yeah, starting with prototypes and small community experiments. Moving to early adopter communities where it maybe functions in parallel with existing governance, generating comparative data. Then broader uptake with maybe millions of users, partial integration with government processes, real network effects, followed by potential institutionalization and legal recognition. And finally, a long-term vision of transformation where it's deeply integrated into a kind of governance 2.0.
That's definitely a long-term vision, and it acknowledges it would likely be a non-uniform, potentially messy process with setbacks.
Oh, yes. It's presented as an idealized path. Trust, perceived fairness, and delivering tangible benefits are seen as the absolute key drivers for this kind of evolution. Which brings us to how it gains formal legitimacy. How does it integrate with existing legal and governmental structures?
Right. How does it go from being this interesting parallel system to having actual recognized power?
Well, it likely starts with de facto legitimacy, influence gained simply through widespread adoption and demonstrated success. If millions of citizens are actively using the platform and their collective intelligence consistently produces well-considered recommendations or surfaces clear community priorities through pooled karma, elected officials would feel immense pressure to listen, right? It acts as this powerful parallel layer of collective intelligence and maybe moral legitimacy that existing power structures would find hard to ignore. Officials might start formally consulting high karma individuals or groups identified through the system.
And then de jure legitimacy is the next step.
Yeah.
Formal legal recognition.
Yes. And the document outlines various pathways for that. Local governments could formally adopt parts of the system via charter amendments, maybe create hybrid assemblies with both elected representatives and high comma citizens chosen through the system. New legal frameworks might emerge for digital identity, e-governance, perhaps eventually even constitutional amendments to incorporate meritocratic criteria into certain governance bodies.
Or even an intermediate step, like universities or employers starting to value the karma mosaic as a kind of civic credential.
That's also mentioned, but the source emphasizes, again, this integration must be done carefully, with broad public consent, designed to augment and evolve existing institutions, not just abruptly overthrow them. It's portrayed as a gradual process, maybe like the historical expansion of democratic rights itself. It takes time.
Okay, so we've explored the problem, that knowledge gap, the core components of this epistemocracy model, UVI, karma, the mosaic, how influence works, gamification, AI facilitation, and the proposed path for actually building it and getting it adopted. What were the inspirations behind this pretty complex idea? And maybe more importantly, what are the big risks the document acknowledges?
Right. The document is quick to point out that this isn't an idea that just appeared out of thin air. It's really presented as a convergence of trends we can already see happening today.
Like online reputation systems. We mentioned Stack Overflow earlier.
Exactly. Platforms like Stack Overflow, Reddit, even Wikipedia to some extent. They demonstrate that meritocratic community governance can work at scale, rewarding valuable contributions with reputation and influence, usually within a specific knowledge domain.
And decentralized governance from the Web3 world. DAOs, those soul-bound tokens you mentioned?
Yes, experiments with token-weighted voting, non-transferable digital assets, but the source also notes crucial lessons learned from the pitfalls there, like the example of the Steemit platform takeover, which highlighted the dangers of purely financial token voting, reinforcing why a non-financial earned reputation system like Karma is proposed instead.
Prediction markets also clearly inform the design.
Absolutely. Platforms like Augur or Metaculus show the power of harnessing collective intelligence for forecasting, and how you can incentivize accurate predictions. That's directly mirrored in the karma staking mechanism.
Civic gamification and educational technology, too.
Yeah, initiatives like MIT's Democracy Coach or various online learning platforms like Khan Academy, they show you can use game mechanics to boost engagement in serious topics, make learning more accessible, more motivating. The document seems to want to apply that successful approach on a much broader civic scale. And finally, those global indices and well-being frameworks we talked about earlier.
Like Bhutan's gross national happiness.
Exactly, or the UN's Human Development Index, HDI. They demonstrate that it is feasible to create these composite metrics for societal well-being that go beyond just economic data, and that value-centered policymaking is at least conceivable. This directly informed the whole design of the UVI.
So it's really taking lessons, pieces from all these different areas. Transparency from blockchain, merit from online reputation, foresight from prediction markets, engagement from gaming, focusing on values from well-being indices, and trying to weave them together into one coherent system.
That seems to be the synthesis they're attempting. Which brings us, naturally, to the crucial question. What could go wrong? What are the big risks, and how does the document propose mitigating them?
Public skepticism and misunderstanding seems like a massive one right off the bat. That whole social credit score fear is incredibly potent.
Absolutely. And the mitigation strategy outlined is paramount here. Total transparency, open source code, clear rules, active involvement of civil liberties organizations right from the design phase, stressing constantly the voluntary nature of participation, giving users granular control over their own data, and a gradual opt-in rollout strategy. But ultimately, the source suggests the best antidote is demonstrable positive results in the communities that choose to try it, showing it works for good.
The digital divide in accessibility is another huge hurdle. How do you make this equitable?
Addressed through intentional design choices, ensuring accessibility for people with disabilities, building it to function reasonably even in low bandwidth environments, providing community access points through partners like libraries, and even potentially incentivizing bridging activities within the karma system. Maybe you earn karma for mentoring someone else on how to use the platform effectively.
Gaming and abuse feels almost inevitable in any system that involves rewards or influence, doesn't it?
It does. Mitigation here relies on a robust verification mechanisms for earning karma, making sure contributions are real, using AI to flag suspicious patterns of activity, fostering community policing where users themselves can flag potential abuse, and having clear, transparently enforced consequences for cheating, potentially backed by those immutable blockchain audit trails.
What about elitism and entrenchment? The risk that high karma users just become a new, entrenched elite class.
Yeah, a definite concern. Safeguards mentioned include the dynamic nature of karma. That potential decay factor means you can't just rest on past achievements forever. The domain-specific nature of influence helps too high environmental karma doesn't automatically make you a dictator on economic policy. And actively incentivizing mentorship programs within the system to help newcomers get up to speed, gain knowledge, and earn karma themselves.
Privacy concerns again, with all that data potentially visible on the mosaic.
Mitigation focuses on minimizing the data collected in the first place, providing pseudonymity options alongside verified identity, using secure cryptographic storage methods, giving users fine-grained control over which parts of their karma mosaic are public versus private, and leveraging those advanced techniques like zero-knowledge proofs for verification without revealing unnecessary sensitive details. It's all meant to be built on that self-sovereign identity principle. You own and control your data.
Over-reliance on the AI, or potential AI bias creeping in.
A big one. The system is explainably built on the principle of AI as a servant, not a master. Humans must remain in the loop for key decisions. There need to be mechanisms to challenge AI judgments or summaries. The AI needs to be trained on diverse data, with ongoing monitoring for bias. The system could even incentivize users to identify and help correct AI errors. The AI is a tool to enhance human capacity, but it must remain accountable to human oversight.
And finally, the potential for conflict with existing political systems during any transition period.
Yeah, navigating that interface is tricky. The strategy proposed is one of cooperative integration, not revolution, framing the system as complementary to existing governance, at least initially, working with open-minded officials, relying on building public support through demonstrated success, and carefully avoiding rhetoric about overthrowing the old system. It's presented as an evolution, a potential upgrade, not an abrupt replacement. So you can see the document tries to anticipate these major challenges and build safety valves, feedback loops, adaptability directly into the system's design, applying its own core philosophy, rational acknowledgement of problems, education, collaboration to the system's own development and rollout.
Okay. Wrapping all this up then, the vision laid out in A Currency of Meaning and Human Flourishing.
Yeah.
It's incredibly ambitious, isn't it?
It really is. It's an epistemocracy model attempting to weave together these threads of universal human values, individual merit earned through genuine contribution, and collective intelligence into a dynamic, potentially evolving form of governance.
And the core aim seems to be preserving the best parts of democracy, that inclusion, that accountability, while directly addressing its perceived weakness, that failing mind aspect, by integrating knowledge, verification, and reasoned deliberation right into the mechanics of the system.
Right. Citizens are invited to become active participants, almost like players, maybe, in a collective civic improvement game, earning this unique social currency, karma, by learning, by contributing, by helping, all guided by a shared understanding of what matters most, captured in that UVI.
And ideally, decisions are guided not just by the raw count of opinions, but by considering the knowledge, the demonstrated positive contributions behind those opinions, weighing what's actually in those heads and hearts, as the source might put it.
With AI playing that crucial role of indispensable assistant, the wise referee, the tireless librarian, helping ensure rational discourse and evidence aren't completely drowned out by noise or emotion or misinformation, especially at scale.
It's an idea that certainly connects a lot of dots we already see emerging in society. Online reputation systems, movements towards measuring well-being, the huge rise of online learning, the growing capability of AI moderators.
It tries to synthesize them. It's definitely ambitious. It would require significant trials, adaptations, societal buy-in, lots of hurdles.
But the potential payoff, at least as laid out in this document, is pretty profound. A society that genuinely rewards knowledge, virtue, collaboration, where collective decisions might be more likely to reflect both reality and our highest shared aspirations.
It offers one possible framework, anyway, for potentially rebuilding trust and effectiveness in governance in an age that often feels overwhelmed by information and division, by making wisdom itself perhaps a form of tangible power.
In ensuring that investing in your own understanding and contributing positively to your community are maybe the most direct ways you can gain influence over the world around you.
Leaving us with a final thought, perhaps from the source's perspective. In this potential new game of governance, maybe the only true winning move is to learn and then to act wisely based on that learning.